What's good, everyone? Wealthier by the day 9, Max here with 3 more topics to cover. So we're just going to jump into it. The first topic we are going to cover is the index fund that I have $60,000 invested into. The second topic is going to be how much money you could generate in dividends if you had $50,000 invested into the stock market. And this is going to be pretty hypothetical, so it's just going to be rough numbers. And then the third topic is going to be how you can earn $100,000 a year. And this is just going to be through income. It's not even going to be investment stuff. It's just you kind of need a steady, solid source of income to fund your investments. So those are the 3 topics for today. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. A disclaimer, I'm not a financial professional. This is not financial or investment advice. Consult a professional. This is purely for entertainment purposes and for me to share my experience with personal finance and all that. So just a quick disclaimer. But the first point, we're going to jump into it. So what is the index fund that I have $60,000 invested into? Oh my gosh, the suspense is killing me. It is FXAIX. That is Fidelity's S&P 500 index fund. Pretty similar to an SPY, which is an ETF, and same with VOO, which is also an ETF. So same difference. The only real difference between index funds and ETFs, if you didn't know, is ETFs trade like stocks. You can trade them multiple times a day. You can buy and sell multiple times a day. With an index fund, you buy, and then you just, at the end of the day, it actually purchases the fund. So you can only buy an index fund once a day or sell an index fund once a day. So it doesn't trade like a stock like that. Which for all intents and purposes really doesn't matter, because when you're investing in index funds, typically the goal is, it's a long-term investment. It's a long-term perspective. So it doesn't really matter if you know what I mean. It just really doesn't matter. Geez, this Mercedes is driving like a lunatic. Come on, brother. Anyways, so that's the index fund I have $60,000 invested into, which is a pretty good chunk of money. And of course, it's the S&P 500. S&P 500 is very simple, very basic index fund or ETF to invest into. That is the number one thing I recommend most people invest in. Beginner, intermediate, advanced, whatever you want to call it. It's the easiest thing to invest your money into. It's something that people recognize. And historically, it has given pretty good, somewhat predictable returns over 10-year averages or decade averages, you could say. So not a bad bet. And if, I don't know, I would recommend everyone invest in the S&P 500 at least a little bit, especially let's say, for example, you have a portfolio and it's all individual stocks. Maybe you don't have to sell off any of your individual positions if you don't want to, but just start building a position in the S&P 500 or like an international index fund or ETF, because those are really strong, very risk-adverse assets that typically trend well over time, and it's just a lot safer than individual stocks. There's nothing wrong with investing in individual stocks for the vast majority, but in my opinion, most of your money should be tied up in index funds and ETFs for the vast majority of people, especially people that are not super risk-adverse. So anyways, $60,000 in FXAIX, that's what I got. And that's just going to grow over time. Hopefully it's at $100,000 in the next couple years, right? That's the goal. Next topic we're going to talk about is how much $50,000 invested in the stock market could potentially pay you in dividends. And we'll just go with a relatively average to kind of mid-high dividend yield, if you will. So And calculating how much you can make in dividends is incredibly simple, and most people just don't understand it. So let's say your portfolio, your $50,000, and this is all hypothetical, but let's say your $50,000 portfolio has an average dividend yield of, let's say, 3%, okay? So this is what I do. We're taking $50,000. Let's multiply that by 2 just for math's sake, right? So we'll say $100,000 so we can figure we're going to calculate how much we can make in dividends off of a $100,000 portfolio to make the math simple. And then we're going to take that and divide it by 2, and that'll tell us how much we can make in dividends from a $50,000 dividend portfolio, okay, with a 3% dividend yield on average. So 3% of $100,000 is $3,000. Simple math, right? 3 divided by 100 is 3%. So you would get $3,000 in dividends from a $100,000 dividend portfolio with an average dividend yield of 3%. Very simple, right? It's all simple math, nothing crazy. So divide that by 2, 3,000 divided by 2, because that's the proportion, right? It's $50,000. It's not $100,000. You would earn $1,500 in dividends, so $1,500. Not a lot of money, right? Like, I'll be honest, I'm not like, that's not a hell of a lot of money. That is not going to get you rich quick, and you are not going to retire off of that anytime soon. Oops. And that's the basic math behind calculating how much you can earn in dividends. Just if you want to get rough figures very quickly, is you take the amount of money and you multiply it by a dividend yield, and that'll tell you how much you're going to earn a year in dividends. So in our example, with a $50,000 dividend portfolio with an average dividend yield of 3% across the portfolio, you would be getting $1,500 annually in dividend payments, and that's before taxes. So you'd also have to take money off for taxes. What does this tell you? This either tells you, one, well, I better find a much higher dividend yield. I better find something that yields 10% so I can, right? So I'm, instead of, like, you'd be making like $5,000 annually before taxes. Okay, so that's pretty, that's better, right? 10%. Or it's going to tell you, I need to put a ton of money in the market to get any kind of return out of this because we're operating on such low margins. So instead of $50,000, well, screw that. I need $1 million in the market. I'd be making $30,000 in dividends annually before taxes at that point. That's at least enough to move the needle a little bit, right? That's going to cover some real expenses. Like, that's going to cover that's going to cover my mortgage right there. It's like, awesome. So that's kind of what tells you. The third thing is take dividend investing with a grain of salt. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with investing into dividend stocks. It's a huge motivating factor for a lot of people, and it keeps people pumping money into the market, which is the most important thing. You got to figure out what makes you excited about investing, and you got to chase that thing. But with that said, dividends are not everything, although I believe if you're investing in individual stocks, it should probably pay a dividend, because if it's not paying a dividend, then you're purely banking on capital appreciation, and that inherently is somewhat speculative if you kind of get where I'm coming from. It's like, if you're not getting paid any cash for your position, then you're pretty much just praying that it's going to go up in value. And maybe you have some very strong conviction and you have good data to suggest that it is going to appreciate and give you a huge return on your capital in the form of share price appreciation. But if you're not getting cash flow, then I don't know. To me, it's like, at least the cash flow is like some collateral, right? Like, at least I'm getting that. So anyways, but that should just put into perspective what dividend investing is really about and what you can expect realistically, especially in the short term. Like, getting up to a $50,000 stock market portfolio, I would say that should take, for the average person, 3 to 5 years, right? Like, in the beginning, especially if the returns aren't going very good, if the market's kind of not good like it is now. It takes a while, but of course, compound interest comes into play, the better your return, all these things. But yeah, like 3 to 5 years to get to $50,000, which just tells you, you could invest into a 3% dividend paying stock like JP Morgan Chase or something, for example. Or you could just put the money into an index fund, which is not going to yield nearly as much as 3%. But as you can see, like dividends already, you're not going to get a whole lot of money out of them. So you should always take into capital appreciation, I guess is what I'm saying. You should always look at total return on investment and not just dividends, if that makes sense. Capital appreciation plus dividend payments is your total return on investment. So anyways, we'll move on to the next one. That was a bit long-winded. And the last one is, okay, how can you earn $100,000 a year at basically like a job or a career or whatever you want to call it? I can only speak from personal experience. I know there's more than one way to do this. I know tech is obviously a good way to go as far as being like a coder. I have friends that are computer scientists, or they were computer scientist majors, or computer engineering. And I know the pay scale is huge there. The other one is just go into general engineering. And again, this is rooted in personal experience. If you go into civil engineering or mechanical engineering, you can make $100,000 a few years after college, like pretty easily. Like I work in the construction sector, basically construction industry, whatever you want to call it. I'm a mechanical engineering major. That's what I graduated from San Diego State University with a degree in mechanical engineering. Went right into the construction industry and was making $100,000 a year after about 4 years of working in salary. So it's pretty easy. And that's in construction. Like if you can find an engineering job where, I don't know, it's the pay scale is even a little bit higher, maybe where you're actually doing technical design work. I don't know exactly because I've never done that. You could make that a little faster. But I guess bottom line is, again, speaking from personal experience, really easy way to make a lot of money is to go into engineering or even construction. You could go work a trade for a union, or not. You could join the union, work a trade, and work for a construction company, and you can easily make $100,000 a year. Those pay scales are ridiculous, plus all the overtime. It is a harder job. Not only is it physically more demanding, but you can't work from home. You're always going to have to be present on site. So time wise, I mean, you're that's how you're spending your time. There's not much juggling you can do with a job like that, which is my experience as well. After actually having to work like jobs where you're in the field working. So just my 2 cents though. I wanted to throw it out there. I mean, like I'm a project manager at this point. I've made it up to that kind of position in my career, and the pay scale is easily $100,000 on the lower end. On the upper end, I mean, you could be making $200,000, maybe even a senior project manager, $250,000. Like the sky is the limit. So, and that's also a testament to, if you want to make a lot of money in your career, get into management. That's where the money's at. Managing teams, managing groups, managing deliverables, all that kind of stuff. That's where the money's at. So again, I know not everyone wants to work a job or have a career and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's the most feasible way for most people to make a pretty reasonable amount of money, including myself. Try going to start your own business. It's going to take you a while to make $100,000, like, and actually pay yourself $100,000. Most likely, most businesses are not profitable. I don't know. I'd say for the first 5 years, you're probably not making much money. I don't know, and that's kind of just take that with a grain of salt. That's not rooted in a whole bunch of research, but just from what I've seen in my own experience, it's not as easy to make money working for yourself as many people might assume it is, and there's a lot of roadblocks, and it's tough stuff, especially if you're just trying to have a side hustle like that. It's like, good luck. You really do have to give most of your time and energy to it for it to really work out and for you to make a lot of money, which for someone that might have a family, that might be too big an ask. Like, you might not be able to just abandon ship at your job and just start your own business. Like, that might just be unreasonable to think. So, hey, I've thought of it, right? I've thought about it, but it's not prudent. So anyways, okay, sorry, bit of a tangent, but the three topics we covered today is the position that I have $60,000 invested into. That's FXAIX, and I recommend everyone else pump some serious money into that if you can, if you got the capital. Relatively safe, relatively predictable, and in my opinion, you really just can't go wrong. It's a good place to keep your money. It's better than a savings account, but it's less risky than betting everything on individual stocks. So that's it. Second point is the amount of money you can make in dividends. Having a $50,000 dividend portfolio with an average dividend yield of 3%. We settled on you would make $1,500 in a year after or before taxes. And then we figured that if you really want to make serious money with dividends, you have to have a ton of money in the market, and or you have to find stocks that have a big dividend yield. But beware of stocks with huge dividend yields, because sometimes there's a fundamental problem in the business, which is the reason why they have such a big dividend yield. Third thing we talked about was a career or career paths that will lead you to a salary of over $100,000 a year, which the construction industry, pretty good place to start. Engineering, I mean, you could become a lawyer, you could become a computer programmer. Like, I'm not like I by no means have great knowledge on this as like a whole. I can only speak from my personal experience. So, but something you can do is just look up jobs that have high pay scales. Like honestly, like I think some people probably like do actually really like what they do, but for me, I feel like I am a bit of a mercenary, and I will do what I have to do to make the money I need. And there's not a whole lot of pleasure. It's fine. It is what it is. But it's like I don't go to work every day loving my life. I go to work with a mission to complete my work and be as productive as possible and to do right to whoever I'm working for. Because in the end, by doing right to them, I will be doing right to myself. But I like most people in my experience, again, probably don't love exactly what they do. If they could, they would probably make a hobby of theirs their job, or they just wouldn't work at all and they'd just enjoy their time. But that's not practical. So, anyways, those are the three topics of today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed them. Again, please comment below. Let me know. Give me some feedback, whatever you got. Please give me more topics to talk about. It's getting harder every day. I'm only on day, 9, and it's getting harder. So that should tell you something. But yeah, please like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate all the support. I'll catch you in the next one.